Ranger 1's War Thunder trailer, Take 1.
From the second it takes off, you're inside. It's a cage, you see.
What, honey? I'm recording. What do you mean it's been done? Oh. Damn it. You know, Ranger 1 has been kicking around the internet for a long time now, spending time in the various virtual worlds that the gaming industry has created over the last few decades. Some of the worlds I have visited briefly and then moved on. Others I have lingered in for extended periods of time. The criteria I have for deciding to settle into a particular world long term boils down to three things. It has to be harsh and unpredictable, difficult to survive in, let alone thrive in. I have to be able to have fun with it, as you've just seen, one way or the other. And it has to have moments of breathtaking beauty, even if that beauty is of a savage nature. War Thunder is such a game, and this dusk battle I'm about to show you in Poland is one of those moments. I haven't seen a nighttime battle in a regular War Thunder match for quite some time, so this was a pleasant surprise. At first, I simply charged ahead as I normally would, but then I started noticing things, such as the artillery flying back and forth overhead. I'd always known there was a pitched battle in progress here, with the artillery pieces firing at each other from long range, but I had never realized just what those shells flying back and forth overhead would look like at night. The effect was stunning. I didn't let that stop me, of course. I actually felt a keen sense of excitement as we charged into the picturesque and deserted Polish Hamburg. So much so that I found myself spearheading an attack through its southern outskirts, sweeping around in a pincher movement while our main force assaulted the central and northern sectors. I plowed through every obstacle in my way, intent on engaging the enemy just as quickly as possible. Yes, I was looking for trouble, and it wouldn't be long before I found it. I was able to deal with the unfortunate lone KV-1 that was attempting to guard the enemy's flank, and continued my advance, albeit in a somewhat more cautious manner, now that I had started to run into opposition. A muzzle flash in the darkness to my right alerts me to danger in that direction, and I snap a shot into another KV-1 before it rolls behind the cover of a small stone building. Other enemy tanks begin to enter the area, and I prepare to open fire again. But my shot is rendered ineffective due to the massive stone support for the fence partially encircling the open lot I have found myself in. Fortunately, in the darkness and confusion, their attention has been focused on the larger threat my teammates pose to the north. But I realize the heavy has finally turned in my direction, so I abandon my position before he can open fire, and I leave him to his inevitable fate. As I swing around the northern side of the building, I suddenly find myself behind friendly lines. In the gloom, I had not realized that allies were that near at hand. The darkness is disorienting, and I stumble across what I mistakenly assume is the burning wreck of the KV-1 that had turned to face me. Feeling that this area was now secure, I decided to push on. As I turned to push back into the empty lot from the north this time, an Allied tank suddenly detonates beside me, and I realize I have blundered directly into the teeth of 3 enemy tanks defending the capture point. It's pointless to try and withdraw, and the only cover I have is a shallow shell crater ahead of me and a single concrete fence post. I expect to be immediately destroyed, but I take advantage of this scant cover as best I can and return fire. I'm horrified to realize that one of the heavies facing me is a KV-2, so I aim directly for his gun before he has a chance to fire, and use the seconds that bought me to consider my next choice of target. I know I've been fortunate to survive this long, but then I noticed through the smoke and gloom that the KV-2 has given me the side of his turret. Now down to 2 opponents, I'm determined to sell my life as dearly as possible while my team flanks this group. I'm finally able to make out in the darkness that the T-34 that has damaged me the most so far has turned his turret away from me. And fortune appears to be smiling until my tank suddenly explodes in a fireball, destroyed by a masterful long-distance shot. Although I had been killed just as I thought I might survive the engagement, I found myself smiling. That really was a difficult shot under those conditions, with that many obstacles in the way. I mentally salute the enemy player, and I select my next weapon. As I spawn in, I can't help but pause a moment and take in the scene before me. Smoke obscures the stars as artillery fire and tracers light up the night. It really does look like a sleepy Polish village caught in the crossfire of a world at war. As I race toward the conflict, it appears that the tide of battle is beginning to shift back in our favor. We are capturing our objective. I notice that the enemy is about to launch an aerial attack, and I decide to intervene. I pull back into partial cover, and suddenly find myself in a Messerschmitt fighter. Ahead of me is an enemy Focke-Wulf, no doubt armed with a pair of heavy rockets, fully capable of destroying our tanks defending the capture point. An Allied fighter and I immediately open up with a steady stream of cannon and machine gun fire, forcing him to choose a different target. With only seconds to stop him or disrupt his attack, we pursue with no regard for our personal safety. We successfully force him to divert and miss his secondary target as well, even though it cost me my own life. Back in my tank destroyer, I choose the most direct route back to the front lines, which are steadily shifting away from me to the west end of the town. We are rolling the enemy back now, and starting to do well, although they still hold the tactical advantage. And while we have numerical superiority for the moment, there are still plenty of enemy vehicles left that are fully capable of turning the tables on us at any moment. As I reach our defensive line, a muzzle flash again pierces the darkness, and a previously unseen enemy tank appears, advancing and firing its weapon even as its crew burns. I wheel and snap a shot into him, but his fate has already been sealed. As I turn to engage an enemy Hetzer attacking from my front, my world explodes again. My fuel tanks have been ruptured by a tremendous hit from an Su-122. And I disappear in a ball of flame and smoke. The enemy is making a desperate last push on the objective, and I'm down to my last tank, a heavy, a KV-85. She's seen a lot of wear and tear, but she's new to me. I haven't had time to put much work or new parts into her yet, but she must suffice. As I roll towards the town, tracer fire lights up the night as a friendly Wellington bomber is set afire by an enemy fighter. However, the pilot, call sign Gray Angel of Death, lives up to his namesake and manages to destroy an enemy KV-1 that was attempting to flank us from the south before he loses the Welly. This time, I decide to proceed along the northern perimeter of the town, so as not to lose too much time in the close confines of its narrow streets. When I finally do cut in just behind friendly lines, I again see a steady procession of reinforcements heading toward the west. That's a good sign, but now I approach warily. It's difficult to know for sure what the exact situation is in the gathering darkness. Everyone appears to be taking positions along the western edge of the town, facing the direction of the enemy line. This is excellent, as we'll have cover and the enemy must approach us across open terrain. A friendly Hetzer scuttles across my path. He too is searching for an ideal location in which to dig in. For a brief moment, everything is silent, only to be shattered by the roar of diesel engines winding up as movement is sighted in the darkness ahead. We instinctively close ranks and stand ready. It's one lone, brave soul making a heroic, if suicidal, last attempt to break through our lines. As the shattered hulk of his tank rolls to what will be its final resting place, and we prepare to rain bombs down on the enemy staging point, I note that the enemy resistance has been all but crushed, and the objective is ours. It was a hard-fought battle, but in the end, we emerged victorious. It's because of battles like this, evoking imagery of such a high caliber, that I find myself lingering on the virtual battlefields of War Thunder. Until I see you there again, good hunting.